I think Jane Haining was a wonderful, I imagine her as being a wonderfully down-to-earth, sensible, good person. Her faith, I think, shone through her life and in everything that she did. Jane Haining was born in this village in 1897 in a farmhouse about a mile away from here, from the church. She was the third of several children, 2 daughters who had survived, but she would have had brothers as well who did not survive. And Jane was the third daughter. Her mum died shortly after giving birth to a 4th daughter called Helen, who died after 18 months. So Jane was only about, a young child, about 5 when Helen died. So she would have known quite a lot of sadness in her early days. Her older sisters were Alison, the oldest, and then Margaret and Jane. And of course, her father was then on his own to bring up 3 girls. He did get some help and did eventually remarry. And Jane was very fond of Robertina, who was his second wife, second Mrs. Haining. She called her Bina. Robertina, Bina. Jane was very involved in the church. Her father was an elder of the Free Church. It was called the Craig United Free Church, about a mile in the opposite direction from her home. So on Sunday mornings, they would have walked past this place of worship to go to the United Free Church. And Jane loved the Bible stories. And as she grew up into teenage years, she told stories. She was a sort of Sunday school teacher. When Jane left school in Dumfries, she didn't want to be living on the farm. Her 2 sisters had left. Her stepmother had another child, and Jane was very fond of Agnes, the little stepsister, but Jane didn't want to stay around Dunscore and wanted, I think, the draw of the city. So she moved up to Glasgow and lived with her sister Margaret. They lived on 4th Street in Pollokshields, and from there she travelled to Paisley, where she worked for Coates, J&P Coates. Jane certainly had a nurturing nature and was very happy to tell stories. And even when she eventually was working in looking after the children in Hungary, she would have told them all about her life here and the Bible stories, even although a lot of them were Jewesses. But she would share all the stories and her faith very much. I think Jane's letters would have been sent after the war broke out, informing the Church of Scotland and also her relatives in the village about the difficulties. And I believe she quotes them going to fetch food very early in the morning in the market because food is in short supply. And apparently she also is reputed to have made repairs on leather shoes and things for the girls out of her own luggage. And so things were obviously becoming very difficult. The arrest of Jane, I think, came about after the son of the cook, who was a member of the Arrow Cross, the Hungarian Nazi Party, was caught by Jane, or discovered by Jane, pinching some of the food that she had procured from the market with great difficulty. And he was severely reprimanded because she was a strong disciplinarian and she had great standards. And of course, this was very wrong for him to have done. So he was banished from the school. I'm not quite sure what happened to his mother, but that is one of the thoughts of how he would have reported, and the Gestapo would have come to take Jane. The Church of Scotland heard of Jane's death because the Nazis documented everything, and they wrote and informed them. And Jane also wrote from Auschwitz. She wrote a letter back to the school, to her friend Margaret Prem, who was the head teacher and was running the school, and told her not to worry about things, and asked questions like, "Is your aunt all right?" And and "I hope you've got the flour," and things, But these letters would have been censored. Jane's death, I think people don't really understand why she was taken and put to death. She wasn't. She was kind of an innocent there, and I find it quite difficult to say, but I think the impact of her death is still being understood more now, and I think it's really important that young people, students and children, realise that things like this happened, and they shouldn't have, and they still shouldn't be happening. But they still are. Innocent people are suffering, and Jane was an innocent person, but who gave her life. She gave her life for the people that she worked with and for the people that she loved, and she wouldn't leave them. Jane Haining was an ordinary person from a small village, with her own story and her own life, and I think it is surprising that she ended up dying in Auschwitz.